You were in for a very special treat, a really amazing episode of Good Thinking.
We had the CMO of Genexa, which is a brand that I've been following ever since I became a mom. And I feel like I've recommended them to so many people. And I noticed that they were doing some really interesting campaigns, and I wrote about them. And Carmen and I have become friends, and we had had her on the show, and she was amazing and so many things. And if you're interested in motherhood, then this one is also motherhood and work, or just in
It's
general,
all the things.
like leading.
That's what it did for me. Yeah, it's about being a challenger brand. It's about leading industries. It's about motherhood. It's about leadership in business. Like, it's all the things. There's so many takeaways.
Yeah, lots of takeaways, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, give it a like or give it a heart, or wherever you are in the universe of things. Subscribe, blah, blah, blah.
Yes, subscribe and let us know how you liked it. Give us some comments. Stay curious.
Hey everyone, it's Chris.
And Kirsten.
Welcome to Good Thinking Weekly, the podcast where we discuss the best of the best in brands, marketing, and culture.
Thousands of people, top execs from the likes of Complex, Klaviyo, Walmart, Wall Street Journal, and LVMH tune in every single week.
We run a creative consultancy in GoodCo, so we know what it takes to build a good brand.
Subscribe on YouTube, your favorite podcast app, and Good Thinking on Substack for more.
All right, let's dive in.
Okay, welcome to a very special episode of Good Thinking.
I'm excited. Welcome, Carmen.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
We're so excited to have you. So excited.
Yeah, so excited. I kind of have been stalking you for a long time, and then you like reached out to me, and I was like, me? Like, you're talking to me?
Oh my God, this is like LinkedIn greatness right here.
I know. And so, yeah, I'd love you to introduce, because obviously I know who you are, but I'd love you to introduce yourself and tell everyone both what you're doing now, but also your background, because you have quite the pedigree, and I think it explains a lot about why you think the way you think.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I'm Carmen Graham. I'm the CMO of Genexa. I've been here for all of, I don't know, a little bit over 90 days now, but like deep in it. I come most recently from FRIDA, where I led all of our brand campaigns, which was really exciting and just really great work that we got to do together there. And before that, I've been agency side. I've worked on Verizon, which was a really fascinating world where I got to dive into telco, which not a lot of people say that that's exciting, but I got to work specifically on brand building for Verizon, which is really exciting, and telling the story of their engineers and 5G and what that brings to the table. And before that, I built my career in publishing, and I was on the media side at Complex Media, and then Complex Networks, now just Complex, I think. But so my background was in social there, and I got to work with some of the brightest minds in content. Sean Evans from Hot Ones, Joe LaPuma from Sneaker Shopping. Those were my people. Noah Callahan Bever. Those were my people for many, many years. So they kind of taught me what this game is about.
I love
That's amazing. It feels like you have the perfect background for today, for like this moment. Like
I feel like I could see it coming. Yeah, like I feel like I saw it coming, and I was able to be a part of what content creation looked like then and now. When I started at Complex, it was a print magazine. I was a baby taking pages around and having editors sign it and all of that. Interestingly, I feel like the culture has shifted it went from that to fully digital to then back to this experiential, tactical thing that consumers are just yearning for, in-person things they can feel. So I think that's really the shift that we've watched happen, is people want to feel something.
Yeah. And I feel like that leads perfectly into like my next question, which is about like what you're kind of bringing. Your first campaign that I saw come out, I was like, hey, Genexa, like, you've woken up. How did you wake up? Like, who woke you up? I start like, going on there, like, and then I wrote about it and you reached out. But I think that you seem to be, bringing some energy to a brand that like maybe has just kind of, I've been a fan of Genexa for, I don't know.
Everyone says that. Everyone says that. Yeah.
Yeah. So 5 years, like it's like, but you just weren't doing like the brand wasn't doing anything. I guess you weren't there to do it. So
yeah. And listen, like it is a company built by people who care so much that this product be made right. And I think that's the parts for me that was so appealing, is that, often the story, you can tell whatever story, but does the product back it up? And I think in this case, the product not only backs it up, but to your point, there's all these just cult followers of people who are like, I want a better choice. I want a better option. And they have done so much work to build what that is, not only in building the product, the innovation pipeline and how they made it is so true to what you see on the box. Like it really is 0% artificial additives. It really is made with these really incredible ingredients that are sourced so thoughtfully and crafted so thoughtfully by real scientists. And like, you can't make that shit up, right? Like you can't,
Right.
that's not marketing fluff. And so, the work that they put into the product has been there. I think what I felt when I started, and in this particular moment where what you put into your body is so highly scrutinized, right? And that's been a few years coming, right? The storytelling is so ripe, right? And that is the part that I think making Genexa and making clean medicine means something to people beyond what you're taking when you're sick. Because the reality is you don't want to think about being sick. You also don't want to think about your medicine. But how does the world around you function when you're sick as a parent, right? Like as a parent, as a person, I know that if my kid gets sick, I have like T-3 days before I get hit with the whatever it is. So,
Totally.
that's like in the back of your mind, and you're like giving them the medicine and you're staying with them overnight and you're like doing all the things and you're like, it's a matter of time before I am super screwed as well.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so I think that's the sort of thing that, especially, to your point, like the campaign that we launched, our pediatrician preferred ingredients campaign, that I was 2 weeks in and I'm like, they need to know. The people need to know that we might not be doctors, but we're parents and we know what it's like. And we know what it feels like when your kid is sick. And that is really what built the brand, is two dads who were like, I want something better.
That's
I
amazing.
love
That's
that.
really beautiful. And I think you can feel that. And I just see the excitement, like from a brand marketer coming in where the product is there kind of, and the story's there for the taking. And literally, Genexa is the only brand that my daughter will use. She's like pretty afraid, pretty cautious of medicine is maybe a better way to say it. She's
Yeah.
11 and we were
Right.
driving somewhere and and she was getting sick and we had to like stop and find a Whole Foods. And it was like late at night. It was like, I don't know, whatever holiday it was.
Right.
But it was like the only way that she was comfortable doing it. And I obviously wanted to honor that, but to
Yeah.
have that as a platform for a brand and then be able to come in and really unveil that and, create that is
Sure.
such an opportunity. So excited.
Totally. And that's such an interesting, anecdote and insight that our kids know what they're asking for at a certain point. And
Yeah.
that is the generational change. That's where you're like, okay, just because my mom did it doesn't mean I have to do it that way. And your daughter one day will have her own family and she'll make decisions based on what you taught her. And I think for us as a generation, right? Like I'm an elder millennial, and like for me, I had to figure out things because my parents didn't have half the stuff, or didn't think about half the stuff that I think about. My mom, when I was giving birth, was like, why do you talk about all this stuff with your friends? I'm like, because somebody needs to. You didn't tell
Right.
me, not because you don't love me, but you just didn't.
Yeah.
Right. No.
Significant
Yeah.
shift.
Exactly.
Yeah, my mom was like, I don't have anything to offer you, but like if you need anything, like you can
Right.
try and ask.
And like mine was like, you wouldn't have believed me. I'm like, fair. That's true.
Right. I mean, that is true. That is true. And you don't want to hear it until it's like really like that moment. Like, no. Yeah. So how now that you've been kind of in for 90 days, like that's, you've made it over the wire. Like now
Yeah, we're here
they
now.
could have fired you. So here we are. And so they didn't fire you. And
Right.
so congratulations on that. How has sort of the energy and the change and the mentality shift like kind of been perceived internally? Because I feel like you've been kind of like, you're shaking the tree a little bit. It seems
We're shaking the tree. I think what I have loved so much is the openness of the team to new ways of thinking, right? It's like we're not gonna play our competitors' game. Like we can't. We are the incumbent. We are the people who are changing the way that people think about this industry and the way that families are thinking about their sick day, right? So we have to act and behave differently. And I think what's been really cool is seeing the energy. Even, a New York Times ad is a New York Times ad, right? But when you're a person who's been at a company for 8 years, and we have a lot of lifers, we have a lot of people who've been with Genexa for a long time, and when they saw their name in print, they're like, there's something to that, you don't get your name in the New York Times all the time. So that to me was I guess now in hindsight, it was such a way to honor what they've built. And I don't think I realized it in the moment. I was like, oh shit, like everybody should just sign the letter. And
Mm.
one thing is to have your founders do it, but when you are the like
Mhm.
accounts payable person and your name is in the New York Times because of a campaign that your company did, there's a pride in that. And I think that they should, I feel it. I feel pride just being 90 days in. So if I had 8 years under me, like forget it. That you should be proud that you're on the shelf right next
Yeah.
to the other guys.
Right.
So that's I was excited about that, and I think that created a tone of this is all of our jobs. It is all of our jobs to care about this brand and to be a brand builder with me.
Right.
Yeah. And
That's
yeah, go ahead.
fascinating. Sorry, I wanna dig into one thing on that because culturally, going into a company, you're coming in as CMO, like, you've shaken things up, you're not quiet about the experiences that you've had, and you've done some amazing things, and for the team internally to be, like, open and say, "Let's do it," versus this I've been on many companies, they're like, "Well, this is the way we've always done it, so we're gonna
Yep.
continue to do it." What is that culture? Like, what allows that? Excuse me, what creates that?
What creates that at Genexa is I think that you're making something that's highly regulated. So you have to care. Like there's
Mm.
no other way to do it, right? You can't really cut corners. You can't really be blasé about it where you can kind of get away with that in other categories. I think in our category, it's inherently risky, right? It's inherently something that you're saying we're going to do something differently and we don't know if it's going to land, right? And it has. And I think that's where I think there's this untapped ball of energy within the organization that I'm excited about cracking open further, and making it about the experiences of the people who've built this thing with David and Max. They again, lots of people who've been there a long time, and even the ones that are new. There's never been this. Even with my team, right? Some of them have been there a long time. Some of them have been there 2 years, whatever. There's never been a moment of like, yeah, we've heard that one before, even if they have. And I think that's kind
Yeah.
of nice is that they're the same way that I'm like, teach me, glean, I want to glean everything from what you've built here. In the
Mm.
same breath, they're open to hearing, like, you know what? Let's try it. Let's try it again. Like they're fine with that. And I think that's something that's been really, it's been a lesson for me, right? That you can always try something again. You can always try something differently. And being open to that, I think, has been really energizing for me that I don't feel like there is a wrong question or a wrong answer. Um,
Mm.
Even when there very clearly is. Again, highly regulated space. Like this is people who are taking this when they're sick. Their babies are taking it when they're sick. Like that's serious
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, it's very rare, I think, to find a company that will try anything again, especially if it didn't like perform the first time. Like they'll be happy to try the same, like kind of repeat the same thing over and over and over again when it does work. But when it
Mhm.
doesn't work, like that's very hard. And I think like that's an interesting culture because that doesn't really exist a lot. So
Yeah,
that's
and to be
fascinating.
clear, like we're deeply analytical. We care about the data. We care that our dollars are being spent efficiently. I think my other kind of because of my background, maybe I don't think everything has to be expensive, right? And
Mm.
one of my leaders at Frida used to say that there are things that cost money and things that are expensive, and that stuck with me. You can be smart about how you spend your money, and honestly, throwing media dollars around in this day and age, like there's other ways to break through, and I think that's what I'm most excited to dig into is that we don't have to play Tylenol's game. We
Right.
don't have to have a big spot once a year,
No,
and frankly, like in
nor should you.
2025, like who has time for that, right? Like
Yeah, but
No one.
yeah. But, I mean, that's the future of CPG, and for you to be able to, like, create that path, yes,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
No,
Yeah.
it's super exciting. And I think, there's so many niches for our business that are really interesting. Like, we've got our Sprouts customer. We've got our,
Mm.
you know, marketing girlies like us, right? Who are in tune with what's hot and fresh in the CPG streets. Like we know stuff. The average person, I was joking around earlier, like I'll call my like sister-in-law or like my friend who works in accounting and be like,
Right.
"Hey, have you heard of this thing?" And they're like, "No, what is that?" I'm like, "Okay, fine. This hasn't broken through beyond marketing yet."
Right.
Like, just the
Yeah.
marketer. know about
It's good to
Right.
go touch grass sometimes and be like,
Totally, totally.
"Is
Touching
this
grass is
real?"
like my cousin who's a teacher, you know?
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
that that's something that, but you do have to break through with both. And our Sprouts customer who's like super into like the allergens, right? That's one
Mm.
person. But you've also got like the mom who's like, whatever, eat the cupcake. Like those two people are very valid. And you're not going to do two TV spots for those two different cohorts. They're very different. You can
Mhm.
do social posts back to back to serve each. So
Mm.
that's
Right.
it's very practical, frankly, the way that we have to work now. It's much easier to reach someone who's got like a very specific story.
Yeah. Yeah. You can go out and target them. But I think it's also that when I see Tylenol's ads, it feels like exactly it's sort of like seeing a diaper ad before there was Coterie or there
Right.
was like a formula ad before a body existed. Like these ads feel like they're a generic version of motherhood that I've never witnessed, like
Yes.
ever. Like
Yeah.
literally like not 1 ounce of that motherhood experience that I have. Like you have so many moms now who like my experience was like I had my baby in COVID. Like I literally never left the house. Like this
Right.
whole like bizarre, like oh, like motherhood is, it's like, well, I don't know. Like I was alone for 2 years. Like I have no
For sure.
concept of what that was like when she was little. And I think that these ads are so generic to the point where you're just like, I would rather be polarized than be given that. Like,
That's
I'd rather
exactly
see
right.
the mom I
Any
don't
day.
recognize, like,
Yeah.
that is at least a real version of somebody than, like, the fake generic stock photography version of an ad that means nothing to anybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's where, for so long, pharma has leaned into this world of like treating the symptom and like you show the exact symptom. And I think, that there's value in that. Like you want to be able to like turn that person over. It's like if booger then Mucinex, great, terrific. But if you think about it, you said this earlier, Kirsten, the your daughter's kind of like anxiety around medicine. I think in many ways, if I think about my own parenting, I don't want to default to antibiotics. I don't want to
Never.
like that was the reality in my childhood and like fine, but and I was fine and by now like I'm probably completely immune to antibiotics. But I think that there's an evolving way, the same way in medicine that there's an evolving way of treating symptoms and people aren't going there first, but when you have to, you have to. Same with parenting, right? Like you don't want to do it like your parents did. There are parts of it you bring with you, there are parts of it you don't. You're sort of deciding the path for yourself. And you said this, and I think that's so powerful is that um, I don't have to see myself. I just have to see reality.
Right.
What I find fascinating with AI and parenthood is like you're chat GPTing how to be a mom in a lot of ways and in a lot of moments. And it's kind of like off the cuff. The other day I chat GPT'd how to get my 4-year-old to stop coming into my room at night. And like 80% of it, I'm like, okay, sure, I'm not going to do that. But then the other like 20, I'm like, oh, that one.
Someone on Reddit had something good to say and it found it.
It found it. It found it. And that's, I think that we're in many ways, a lot of the job in parenting marketing now is to crowdsource those
Yes.
experiences and find the ones that could be relevant. They might not always be, but some point, somewhere, somebody went through that. And I think that's really, really powerful. And we have a really uh high bar of what we need to solve for. This is people's kids. Like it is the
Yeah,
most sensitive thing that you could possibly be touching.
totally.
I
Yeah, and
become
I think
psycho when it comes to my kids.
oh, no, yeah, and it's the rules are all different.
The rules are out the window half the time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
100%.
that's true. So, like, yeah, making up the rules every day.
We're making them up.
But yeah, like your new campaign where you talk about sort of like the group chat and like that's something that I super relate to. Like I don't think that I mean, other than chat, I do Google it and Chat GPT. Like when I say Google now, I mean Chat GPT. We should
I
talk
You mean
know.
about that.
Me
chat.
too.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
I just mean search and I mean chat. But when I search for things, like I am also like, I'm like, have you tried this? Like, or your mom friend will be like, how are they doing? And you're just like, I don't know, nothing's working. Like I haven't slept. Like and they're like, have you tried getting in the shower and steaming them? Have you done this? There's always like 10 people that you're kind of, and
Yep.
they're all kind of approach it from their different perspectives. And like,
Mhm.
some of them are better at it and some of them are just like, like
And some of
whatever.
them are like, she's my crazy friend. We'll see if
Well, but sometimes you need that crazy friend, like we have
totally.
Jenny and like when things got bad with like a rash that Harriet had, I was like, okay, we got to go woo woo on this.
Call
Like,
her.
what do we
Call
got?
her.
Like, I was like, like nothing is working. I'm not going to put petroleum on my baby's body. So like, I know she's not going to go there. So, what else have we got? Like, if we
Yep.
can't do petroleum, which is obviously what Google was telling me to do, what can we do?
Right. Right. That's
So,
our I think for me that insight was obviously deeply personal for me.
mhm.
in any given moment, whether I want to be or not, I'm in 5 group chats, one for each kid and like one for each classroom. And then there's the extra one, the like side chat to talk about what's happening in the school chat. Like, it's all very, and it's not just moms, must be said, not just moms.
True.
Every now and again, a dad jumps in there. I'm like, all right, good for you, or grandma. There's
Yeah.
others in there. But I think it was an interesting, it all came together really quickly. And I was like, we have to go with something that we know. It's still kind of going right now. We've got a couple things up our sleeve. This will roll into Q1, and there's some exciting stuff that we're going to be, just releasing. That's going to be fun. But really it was meant to be a mirror to what mothers are already living. It's definitely, nothing's ever perfect to me. So I'm like, I could have done it a million different ways. And I will forever stick to that, is that you're never done with good creative. But it was a departure for the brand. It wasn't, here's the bottle of the competitor, here's our bottle, and here's why they're different. Like, we didn't go there, and jury's out on how that will exactly perform and drive point of sale. But I feel very heartened that we're showing up in a way that parents can for sure relate to. And if we're going to build this brand over time, which we are, then again, making Genexa mean something to the parents who are purchasing at shelf is going to be a crucial part of the job to be done, as well as driving that point of sale. Like, we need more
Right.
people. And what we've learned in the 8 years of Genexa being around is that when they know us, they love us. They're not switching back. You don't go back
Right.
to,
No. And I've recommended you to like 100 group chats. So like,
and that's,
I think
you
that's
know,
why we started. Yeah. I
That's
think you
exactly
agreed
yeah.
to it a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly it, is that
5
this
years ago.
is a thing that is shared through word of mom. It is something that is sort of like expands, and we kind of get our tentacles out there. And how many products aren't like that, right? Like, there was a point in time where like the snot sucker was the like incumbent to the bulb, and
Yes.
that was a
I
moment.
mean,
That was a moment,
Sh-
yeah.
Kirsten got me on the snot sucker. I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, the snot sucker, the level of satisfaction that you feel, and like, it's all of the things. It's well
Yep.
designed, it's aesthetically, you feel like you're onto something. And that,
You
my kids
feel like
are
you're onto
11 and
something.
14, so it was a while ago that I was able to do this. It was when we were in New
yeah.
York, but just
Yeah.
such an amazing thing. And I think what's interesting, especially as we're having more and more of this conversation, really realizing like it is you're in this marketing space, and you're challenger brand mentality, and want to dig into that a little bit more of like, it is moms, and it is kind of the future, the transparency of a brand. It is
Mhm.
kind of a challenger brand and the future of CPG. Like, you're kind of encompassing a lot of different elements and leading this brand, and it feels like you are bringing a lot of challenger brand energy to this, like you did at Frida. Like, what's that look like?
Sure. So being a challenger, to me, does the potential of getting this so right change the way an industry treats medicine, right? That,
Mm,
like, you can't get more challenger than upending a 70-year-old product.
right.
Like, you are like, being an ankle biter in that world is something that changes legislation. It changes the way parents parent. It changes the way that we think about ingredients, which the food industry has already sort of done, right? We've already seen that happen in food. Seeing it in medicine, where the stakes are higher, is really fascinating to me, because truly, like, what are you scared of? What are you scared of? Giant industry that has been built around this. And I mean, that gets into some deep, dark places,
Mm,
Yeah.
deep,
yeah.
dark places that maybe I would need legal representation to talk about. There's such a, there's such a move away. And I think this segues into something we talked about earlier, but there's such a move away from traditional medicine, right? And what I find so interesting is the way that our product and our what we're offering in this category has brought together a cohort of people that would never, ever, ever, ever hang out in a room together, ever.
Yes.
But
Yes. And we've,
Yes.
yeah.
is a challenger, right? That is a challenger. To me, the fact that moms, like with Frida, right? Like, moms would talk about, or parents would talk about, who's the snot sucker in their house. And that was something that we would talk about a lot internally, is like, who is the person who, like, and it changed family to family. Every single
Oh,
family had a
yeah.
different way they would tackle it. I was the snot sucker in my house. There was other houses where it was like, oh no, we don't, I'll do all the poop in the world, won't touch the snot sucker. So my sister-in-law won't touch throw up, right? So fine, to each his own. In medicine, it's kind of a similar story, right? In my case, like,
Mm,
antibiotics were how I was brought up. If you got sick, you call in a Z-Pack, right? And now you see, I'm like, oh God, I like, when my pediatrician recommends a Z-Pack, I'm like, oh God, is he okay? Is he going to be all right?
right.
Like,
Yeah.
what do
Yeah.
I
Me
listen
So
to? Like,
true.
right? And you're
Me
like,
too.
how do I combat whatever is in that Z-Pack to like make
Yeah.
them
Right.
better?
You're like, how much
Exactly.
probiotic do we need to put on top of this
Right,
thing?
totally, like chugs probiotic herself.
Right.
Um,
Yes.
so I think with us, that's sort of that exact thought. And one of the things that I feel so strongly about is a pediatrician and a parent agreeing is such a beautiful thing. And
Mm.
that conversation where you're like, okay, here's how we're going to tackle this. We're going to tackle it together. That's where we sit. That's where we are in this place of your pediatrician has things that are tried and true. And if your kid has a fever, you have to treat that fever. How you treat it is up to you, but here are some options. And I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, like a perfect case scenario of how we would live into this challenger brand is where all of a sudden you have pediatricians saying, like, give them some Genexa, they'll be okay. Just that thought moving away from give them some Tylenol and they'll be
Right.
fine. That is the reality, is that this is what's happening. And there's other ways. And you don't have to always turn to medicine, to traditional medicine, I should say. But sometimes when you have to, you want to have a choice that's more aligned to your values. And
Yeah.
that hasn't been
I
an
mean, the
option.
fever is, yeah. I mean, I'm going to go with like 104 here. And it's like, because I live in Europe, but it's, it's like when the fever is high, the fever is high. Like, you
Fever's
got
high.
to do something.
Totally.
Then
Totally.
you've got to do something.
Exactly.
Like,
And for me, that's what challenging means, giving parents another option and one that hasn't existed.
yeah. So let's talk about the elephant in the room because
Ugh.
obviously I was like, MAHA is such an interesting space for me because I think like I look at it and there's like the political aspect of it. And there's so much going on in it though, of like, the food dye, which I think is just like this tiny little thing that
Yep,
everybody is like.
it is.
But
Agreed.
like the food dye situation, like that was a great story for you guys. And I don't think like, like I look at the brand and I don't think to myself like, oh, like this is such a political brand
Right.
at all. It always felt like it was just like, why are we doing this? Like, we
Hmm.
don't need to add like, and my daughter won't take Tylenol because it doesn't taste like Genexa. And
It
she,
tastes real. Crazy.
yes.
Yeah.
And when I've panicked bought things, it's been bad. We've had to go to suppositories when we didn't
Oh,
have you guys because she wouldn't take it. Like it's like we don't
worse.
want to go here, people. Like
No.
as a mother, you
Oh,
never want to be there. This was a very bad night.
that's terrible.
And but like this is another
Suppositories are
episode.
truly where parents we need to talk about suppositories.
Let's talk about this.
That's
That's
how.
what we're here for. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Let's talk
Wow,
about it.
man. Where's the suppository support group, man? That
Oh
is
man.
where have we gone wrong? Like, why are we here? Like, it's the worst. It's the worst. You don't want to be there. That's the
You
thing.
never want to, you don't need to get there in the first place. And I think in Europe, it's such a default. Like, so in France, like where I grew up, like my mom was just like, this is fucking insane. Like, why are you guys like always giving suppositories? Like,
is.
there has to be another way. She's like, and I know there is. But yeah, I mean, I think like, so let's talk about the MAHA thing a little bit more and like, how have you been navigating that? Like, has it been good for you? Is it bad for you? Like, because you're very pro doctor too. And I think
Yeah,
MAHA is not always pro doctor, like,
sure.
and so there's a lot of other conversations that are going on that are challenging.
Let's I think that in order to go into the MAHA, you have to sort of zoom out a little bit into what MAHA is really getting at, right? And it's agency. It's
Mhm.
having choices. It's having an option. It's being able to make the decision for your family that you feel is right for you. There are places where that goes totally sideways, right? And on both sides of the spectrum, however you want to look at it. But I think that's ultimately what the conversation's about. And I think it kind of goes at something even bigger because I think what I find fascinating is the who you see represented in the MAHA conversation. And a lot of times, not to bring it back to moms, but it's moms, right? And you see these like personalities and the voices that tend to pop off again on either side. And there's a that is to me the common thread. And it actually speaks to something completely unhealth related, which is this culture war within motherhood and within parenthood, where it's like there's a
Mm.
right and wrong way to do it. And you guys have kids, you guys know how to like there isn't. Like every kid is their own universe. Every family is their own universe. And what works for one might not work for the other. And you kind of can't get mad at people for that, right? And so I think for me it's really about choice. And to the point about doctors, which ironically choice is such a loaded term in politics. But
Yes.
isn't that what we all want? is just, we want to be able to do what's best for our families, whatever that means to you as an individual. I think that's what it's really getting at to me. And I think, yes, do we see benefit in some of the narratives that have flown around about the competitive space and all of that? But at the end of the day, we only know what we know, right? And if we know that acetaminophen brings fever down and you need to use acetaminophen, or you need to bring a fever down, how you get there is up to you, but there is a proven ingredient, right? And that's the facts we have right now. Beyond that, it is up to you. And that's really, I think for me, it's the agency piece. And then the fact that we're all kind of infighting about how to raise our families. And it's so personal. And every house is its own universe. And I think we turn to the people we trust, whether it's your doctor, your friend group, your parents, your other caregivers, you turn to the people that you trust. And my hope is that we can enter the conversation from a place of trust because we did our research. We're doing our homework. You can't just drop an acetaminophen product into the market. Like, you have to do things to get there. And so I think for me, that's where, while we saw a sort of like immediate moment of benefit, sure, but at the end of the day, it's the trust that will get someone to switch. It's the trust that gets someone to stick. And it's so interesting because if I go back to my telco days, the telco war of switching from one carrier to another, like, it was a constant day-to-day battle of like, T-Mobile is here and AT&T is here and Verizon's here. And like, it changes moment to moment. You drop a new ad and you immediately see a bunch of people switch. You drop a new iPhone and like, whoever has the best deal on the iPhone. So in that world, switching was such high stakes game for these giant publicly traded companies. In our case, it's a different high stakes game of families making choices for their health that is a slower burn. Like, it's not that immediate gratification. Like, for me, a spike the day after the Tylenol press conference. Okay, but what are we doing to build trust? Which is why we dropped our manifesto in the wake of that moment, was because, you know what? Pediatricians are in our corner, right? We did a study. We did an entire moment where we showed ingredient profiles and they chose ours, right? And that's overwhelmingly. So to me, it's like, what can we do to keep building on that trust? That's one thing. We dropped the mom spot. Why? Because moms listen to other moms. What is the other kind of cohort of people? What are the other cohorts of people that parents listen to? And whether anyone, MAHA, not MAHA, whatever label they have, whether they want to admit it or not, they're asking someone. Who are those
Oh,
someones?
yeah.
You're not doing this alone. Parenthood's a team
No.
sport.
No, yeah. It's
Yes.
being
Yes,
cobbled
it is.
together by the minute. Totally. I think that's a very even and nice way to have that
Politically
conversation.
correct, if you
No,
will.
but it didn't feel politically correct, but it felt like it's true. And it's a hard thing. Like, I think, like, like, it was interesting watching you guys from the sidelines, because it's like, you can see, like, I know that this is going to be like interesting for them. They're going to have to deal with this. And so many brands, like, they're like, oh, politics, like, we can't get into politics. And it's like, truth be told, like, every brand, like every food brand, every CPG product, basically, and like, this was in the predictions last year, was like, every brand is going to have to come up against this story this year. Like, some way or another, it's going to slap you in the face. Like,
Yeah.
when you're probably when you're sleeping and thinking you're not going to be like dealing with this, and then you're going to like wake up and there's a press conference about it. Like, it's not going to be a slow, like, like, oh, we knew this was coming for years and years and years. It's like, no, it's going
And
to
you know
hit the
what?
fan.
I think that's an interesting point. In many ways, the dye thing, we all knew that the hot pink orange of Cheetos wasn't good for us, right? Like,
Yeah.
nobody was
Yes.
out here like, that's the thing that's going to make me healthier. Like, that's not the
No.
case. We all knew this. So I
I mean,
think,
yeah.
when you get like shitty feedback at work, it's like, oh, there's kernels of truth. Even if you're mad about it, you're like, all right, but I can see that. And you take that with you and you take the good. Whereas, say what you will about all of the things, there are kernels of truth to these conversations. It's just how we manage it and how we manage our customer. And like, we know that we are serving a customer who cares about ingredients. So no matter where they sit in the political diaspora, fine. But we know that what they care about is doing what's best for their families. And we can't judge you for it, right? We can give you the option that either we know you like or we know is better. That's all we can do. Like, our role isn't to like necessarily teach you the political reason for it existing. But we also, we've been at this for 8 years. That was pre-MAHA. MAHA didn't have a
Oh,
brand.
yeah. No.
You know what I mean? So, like, I guess, like, if you put a red hat on it, sure, but like, that's not it. It's really that agency that every family is looking for, whether they know to ask for it or not.
Yes, agreed. So on LinkedIn, you are, I would say, very vocal in the most like delightful way about
Yes.
motherhood and about like how it's difficult. And you're talking about it here and like, but you just seem very, I mean, granted, you work for Frida. Probably it was very celebrated that you were like talking about motherhood. And now you also have like segued this into something that's very adjacent to motherhood, if not completely related. And tell me about like that, how like that voice came out in you. Cause it's like, you know, like it's not easy to do. Like, was there an example given to you? Like, how have you been
Sure,
navigating this? I want to know all the stories.
sure,
Yes.
sure, for sure.
We
So I
need more
guess,
of it.
yeah, for sure. So, I think Frida, the thing I valued so much about my time spent there is I could write you a Frida packaging copy right now. Like the voice just imbued everything we did. And so it
Mm.
probably augmented in me what I already knew about myself. And I'll tell you, like I fell into motherhood. Like I wasn't one of those girls necessarily. Like, yes, I always assumed I'd become a mom, which is a very place of privilege thing to say, but I know that that's true. And I always just kind of assumed it would happen. I didn't think about it too much. And then when it happened, it like fundamentally changed me. And to the point where I was worried at one point. I was like, God, like my friends must think like, oh, the girl who was at like the club last weekend is like now this like mom who like talks about motherhood all the time. But I was also one of the first ones in my friend group to be a mom. So
Mm,
I think it was so lonely in those early years, and
Yeah.
as they all started to kind of evolve and then, when I faced certain things in my career that were not conducive to motherhood, I was like, "Shit, this is like a thing. This
Yeah.
is a
mm,
thing, and it's not just me." And, there were people in my career who I like thought were really hard on me about it, and I internalized that so much, and then looking back, I'm like, maybe they didn't have anybody who looked out for them as
right.
a mother. So I kind of like took it that way, and I was like, maybe there's something to be said about opening up the coffers, and sharing my experience
Mm-hmm.
because I know others might not have either the wherewithal or they want to. I have friends who are really stoic about it all, and I give them so much credit because I can't be. But at the same time, like I said before, right? My mom did it all. My dad traveled a lot. My mom was the one with us 4 at home, and she didn't have somebody to go to. She left law school, and my sister drank like a bottle of medicine. She had to like scramble to get her care because she was in like law school classes, and she left law school, and I don't take that lightly.
Mm,
And I think there's a lot of power in moms being parents, keeping it real with each other. And it's funny because my husband actually randomly will like look at my LinkedIn. I'm like, "Do you see anything you like? What's the what do you see?" And he's like, "Oh, I thought it was cool that thing you said." I'm like, "Yeah, because it's true. It's it can be hard and it can be lonely, but it doesn't always have to be." And we I credit Frida so much for what they've done for the tone of how we talk about parenthood. I don't think every brand has to be necessarily the same as them, but I think they've created a way for that to
yeah.
exist. And you see it in Coterie, you see it in Bobby, you see it in a lot of these parenthood brands, even like the big ones, even the P&Gs and the Unilevers, right? Like when they have evolved, whether or not a little bit. They still like are like looking
Yeah.
at it on a spreadsheet to see if it worked, but that's
Right.
fine.
Yes.
I just think the conversation of motherhood on LinkedIn specifically, on a business platform, is so needed. Chris and I talk about this a ton,
Don't
and we've
need it.
talked about this for years, a lot from my initial experience, which was not great, and being in a high-level
Advertising is a
position. And
repeat offender.
yeah. Yeah, and it sucks, and then I was the example of that, and I've got a lot of shame around that, right?
Yep,
How do we go and not just share our experience, give people permission, but also give them a rallying cry? Yeah, so you can
right.
go and do that. We're very transparent about our schedules because it's important if somebody's got a ballet lesson or
Yep,
a doctor or whatever. It's not like, oh, I'm blocked out at this time. Let's share and cover for each other and empower. So we're not just like giving each other permission, but there really is a rallying cry. And I think the louder we can
exactly.
have that conversation, and you're a huge part of that.
And I love of that because I think the tactical examples, I'm part of this like cohort of marketers and women and men who are all talking about this stuff pretty frequently. And one of the things that I absolutely love is the sharing of how you do it. Right. Like I think we saw that, remember like
Mm,
back in the day, it was like, here's my 9 to 5 as a CEO. And like that was like the thing that was on Forbes.com or whatever. And now I'm like, no, but tell me, like, do you put on your calendar Carmen out of office, Christopher's Christmas show? Or do you put Carmen out of office? Like that level of granularity. Like my old team would tell me, they would be like, I love seeing like the random shit on your calendar. I'm like, yeah, because have to see it in one place. I need to
Right.
know what
Me
I'm
too.
going, like the PR team, update to picking up for soccer. Like I need to know because my brain needs to operate that way. My sister-in-law is a, super successful healthcare executive at Kaiser Permanente. And like I see her level of organization and I know that it's because she has to plan for her kids' swim meets as much as she needs to plan for a board meeting. So there's this organizational level of openness that I think is that's what I love about seeing all this stuff pop up on LinkedIn is because I know that somewhere someone is like, oh, so it's okay if I'm open about where I'm going to be. Like if you have a dentist appointment, you say you're at the dentist. What's the difference? Like what
Yeah.
is there fundamentally is not a difference.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
it's
yeah.
there's a
There's
humanity
a,
to
yeah.
seeing it in a place of where business conversations are happening.
Could not agree with you more, and you should see our calendars because
Right.
there's a
Yeah.
lot on there that's
Yeah.
really
But it's also about valuing it, right? Like it's like saying to your team, like, I value this. This is important to me. And
Mhm.
like I want you to feel like you can value it. And like when I see that you value it, like I'm gonna honor it. Like and Kirsten will be like, hey, like you have dance class at this time. Can I and I'm like, yeah, like, today, like I feel like I've done 3 dance classes, so I don't need to do this one, Like there's a flexibility to it. Like there's
Yes.
nuance there. And
Yes.
like to me, like that's also part of it is I think there's such this belief that like you become this mom and then you like, like you only care about your children. Like, like I dropped off like the other day, like literally stayed in a hotel overnight with Kirsten unexpected. Like motherhood looks different to every single person.
Yep.
And I think there's just this, again, like this preciousness of that I still see out there where it's like, oh, you're either a great mom because you do all of your ballet classes or you're a bad mom if you like, do this. And it's like, oh, there's a lot of us out there just like,
Totally.
cobbling it together and like moving things around and trying the best. And,
And
you
by
know,
the way, like by keeping it real, that's true. I mean, if you think about it from a business perspective, find me an executive, find me a performer, a high performer who isn't great at managing their own time. Like that is
right.
true. If you take away everything else, if I have a meeting tomorrow that I need to prepare for and I don't block my calendar to work on those deliverables, I probably am not going to do well in that meeting. So it's kind of like it's the same idea. And I think that the same way that we judge a performance marketer versus a brand building marketer versus a social first marketer, like we're all doing the same things. We're just hacking at it in a different way. And I think there's a lot that we can learn from that in the business sense, right? And from a financial perspective, even every dollar counts, every minute counts. If
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not telling you where I am
Yep.
because I need to be like zoned in on a moment, then how does that help any of us? It's just really archaic. And I do think that seeing the whole person, growing up in the like lean in, early
Yeah.
2000s, like it was a weird time. It was a really weird time. And like you're not going to girl boss your way into a post COVID success story. Like it's just not going to
No,
happen.
gonna go well. It's not
Right.
gonna go well for you. All
Okay.
right. Well, I think we should get into quick fire questions. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I
You've got more
You ready
questions.
for
You
this?
could. I can
I mean,
tell that
I
you
have
could
one
chat
thing
with
that
Carmen all
I do.
day.
Well, I was like, when are we going to drinks? Like,
I
this
know.
is for
What
sure
time?
happening.
I'll
Yeah.
be there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. But I do want to know one thing before we get into a quick fire, and I'm trying not to say rapid fire. Just as a leader, like, I would want to know, I would be like, okay, Carmen, tell me as I'm leading a different company or a VP of marketing somewhere or CMO, what are some of the like unconventional things that you're doing with your team or you're doing daily that other brands, other leaders can kind of take away? Because I
Um,
got a notepad, I'm ready.
that is a great question. I think one is silos can't really exist.
Hmm.
You can't have the paid media team here and the brand team here and the creatives over here. Like one of the biggest challenges I find is the way that social has democratized the way we look at our assets. They have to perform, they have to creatively break through and they have to tie you back to the brand somehow. Those are 3 individual functions in one asset. So for me, that's the biggest thing. Like starting at Genexa, I was like, we're getting all in this together. We're going to find where everyone splits off and goes and does their own thing, but we need to come at these problems together. And I think that, time will tell, but I think that was one of the things that I valued so much, both from my agency days and at FRIDA was that we would just we would get right in there, and everybody had to solve the problem. Sometimes some functions stood out more, but it is important that everyone at least know what's going on. There's nothing worse than walking into a all hands meeting or, anything like that. And it's like, I didn't even know that was happening. That's a really shitty feeling. And so I think for me, that's really important is bringing everyone along for the ride, whether or not they split off at some point, like that's fine. But that's really, for me, paramount. I hated being left in the dark when things were going to impact my function. And coming from agency, that's what you learn. And coming from a newsroom, it's everybody's job to know when the cover stories are dropping in a newsroom.
Right.
So that's a big part of my upbringing.
Smart.
That's great. That's great. Because being on the brand side, that feels like shit whether or not you need to know the thing for your role or not. But we were just consulting for a company and that was happening. And it just doesn't feel good. You're not going to create a culture where it's like, I'm going to raise my hand and speak up in any meeting if that's happening. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Quick fire.
Ready?
Ready?
All right.
God. Okay.
Kirsten,
3 things every
depression.
brand should do.
3 things every brand should do. They should leverage social as the first place for their insights. What is happening? Know what is being searched about your brand. Know how, the average poster, whether they have 3 followers or 3,000, what are they saying about you? I would take that over a focus group or a big expensive study all day long.
Love that.
So that's 1. Does that count?
1. That's
Okay.
1.
Yep.
But there's a lot in there.
All right. Care about how you look. Care about how you look. Care about the aesthetics. That was one thing that Frida, again, hammered in, care about how you look, care how you show up. Sometimes you'll get it great. You'll do it great. Sometimes you will do it less great, but just care. Whether or not it turns out is sort of like anybody's game. And take care of your people. And that is one that I have learned sometimes the hard way, but care about your people, care about your production partners, care about how they feel, how they like working on your brand. Would they go tell someone else that you were a great brand to work with or not? That is, to me, I am so lucky and big shout out to Alan Phillips, one of my absolute mentors who taught me that. He collects people in a way that has been so motivating for me, and I'm lucky to be one of them. And I want other people to feel that when they work with me. So that's something I definitely have messed up in the past, but I will never do it again because I believe in it so much.
Yeah.
Love that.
Beautiful. Love that. So what's your one biggest learning? What one thing would you do differently?
What
Just
is one thing I would do differently?
Yeah.
I would never sacrifice my integrity for work. And I would never sacrifice the integrity of the work for one piece of feedback. Like, stick to your guns, stick to what you know, even if it's instinct. Sometimes it's data, sometimes it's instinct, but whatever it is, stick with it.
Awesome. One word that sums up your brand.
Like Genexa, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it could be your personal
Yeah,
brand.
we're open.
I mean,
Could be your personal brand. You've got
Yeah,
one.
let's do that.
But no,
Yes,
Genexa is a slee.
Amazing.
If you could collaborate with one other brand.
Oh, man, I would love to collaborate with, you guys mentioned them before, Poppy. Wash it down.
Cool. Love it. Love it. All right. Well, we'll start manifesting that for you here.
Well, Penny.
It happens. All right. Takes us to one celebrity spokesperson for the brand.
Oh, man. Oh, my God. This one's so hard. The Foster sisters.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
I would
So
love
specific.
an episode of, what's the show that they're doing now on Netflix? I would love an episode of that show where somebody's sick and we show up.
I love it. So good.
Awesome. Amazing.
Thank you.
Carmen, thank you so much. So
Thank
much
you,
fun having
guys.
you on.
This was so
No
fun. It
joke.
does
We're having
feel like
drinks, hanging out soon.
this was so, honestly, next time you guys are in Miami, come on down.
I love it. That would be
We got
amazing.
Yes.
All right.
This was
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Talk later.
That was it for this episode of Good Thinking. Don't forget to tune in next week.
If you found this valuable, subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app.
And don't forget to read on Substack for even more insights.
And if you really liked it, drop us a heart. We'd love to hear from you.
Ciao. Until next time.